I want to get this out there because I know, and I'm seeing this. You're not going to hear this from left-wing media overall. They're going to be silent on this. A lot of them like Cornell West. Um, I don't know much about him, just from the little snippets I've heard of him speaking and the little bit I know of him. He's the one that I would vote for, in theory. Um, I would need to look into him more before making that kind of decision, but based on what I know of who's out there, he would be the one that I would, let's say, consider. Now that is deteriorating as time goes on because now I'm learning more about him. What am I learning about him that other left wing media won't talk about? I'm learning that he's a guy that is very politically savvy in terms of understanding politics and history of this country, um, but yet potentially massively incompetent in other ways in his decision making process. I mean, you're running for president of the United States. That is a massive, massive undertaking. And the idea that someone at his age, he's not a young guy, naive, inexperienced, a guy at his age with his demonstrated intellect would just sort of like casually just like, oh, I'm just going to go in this party without taking the time to, I mean, you're applying to go in, you want to get into Harvard, right? And then you're just kind of like roaming through high school, just kind of like, all willy nilly, not really doing anything spectacular. And then your hopes is that you're just going to somehow slide into Harvard. Like what? Anyone trying to get into Harvard, if that's your intention, you better be on a mission to be. I mean, that's one of the top schools, so you got to demonstrate yourself that you're one of the top students, right? So Harvard looks at you like, wow, this is the kind of person we need at our university, right? So the idea that you would be trying to get into Harvard and then be unaware of some very basic things about getting into college in general, right? So let's say, for example, you didn't really take the, I'm just an old guy now, but I believe SAT scores is a big thing about college. So you never really took the SAT seriously. So you're trying to get into Harvard, but you didn't really take the SAT seriously, didn't get that impressive of a score. Maybe there's certain things that, to get into these schools, the things they like to see is people who do volunteer work or whatever it is, right? Well, you haven't even spent the time to do the research. Like, how can I get into Harvard? Like, Google how to get into Harvard or asking people questions. And therefore, you would know this stuff already. So you'd already been like, I got to get my SAT up. I got to do this volunteer stuff. Because, there's no way you're going to get into Harvard unless you're on your A game, right? So you running for president of the United States of America. I mean, I mean, come on. Let's put Trump aside. But I mean, that's a major undertaking, right? And then you're going to do it as an independent? How could anyone who has even the most basic level of competence plan, and again, it's not some random person. He's a political guy. I mean, I could see maybe he doesn't know politics, right? He's a businessman, right? He's coming with businessman stuff, and he just has a desire to make the country better. No, he's a political guy. Decades and decades of politics. He knows politics. So I assume he must know how parties work. I assume he must know how the electoral process works. And with that information, knowing that you're trying to run for president, I mean, knowing that's an uphill battle, the idea that he would not, like that kid trying to get into Harvard, do all the research, and he shouldn't really need to do research. I mean, again, this guy is a politics guy, so he shouldn't need to do research to know the importance of the party he picks, the importance of ballot access. Um, and he doesn't have to even be aware of those specific details. He can just simply, through being serious and being competent, he can simply have a very fundamental, just very organic sort of, okay, I'm going to run for president. I need to pick a good party that can, the best party to make that happen, right? So again, without knowing any details, without knowing any, like, let's put that stuff aside. Just in general, that thought process would have to cross your mind. Just an average person. It's not like somebody who's a genius. I mean, again, it's a difficult task. So in order to succeed, you got to have A game. A games mean you need to be very what's what I'm looking for? Tactful? Have good tactics? I don't know what I'm looking for. But you need to be very, methodical about how you approach things, right? So one of the most critical details would have to be picking the party. Again, that's without even getting into the reasons why. I mean, just logically, right? If you're going to run under a party, right? Clearly, just on a fundamental level, if you don't know anything about politics, right? Not knowing anything about politics, you would have to know that the choice of party must have some significant relevance because you're going to be part of a system. You're dealing with other people, right? I mean, you're essentially picking a team of sorts, right? So I want to be a race car driver, and I'm picking my team, mechanics, and all the people that are involved. And I'm just gonna be like, hey, this team looks cool. Hey, let's go. And meanwhile, I'm trying to get NASCAR, so like a major competition. Gonna be very difficult for me to succeed. And my neighbor's like, hey, I'm a mechanic, and I'm like, oh, cool. I'm trying to win NASCAR. Like, come on, let's go. You're hired. What? I mean, even if your neighbor says he's a mechanic, and the guy's cool, and you consider him, still there has to be that's what I'm getting at. There has to be a process of selection, right? I mean, just logically, don't know much about politics, but know how difficult it is. Anyone with half a brain knows, one, the party has to be relevant. I may not know why exactly, but logically, the choice of party must be a major factor. It's kind of obvious, right? And again, it's just instinctively obvious. Not you don't have to get into details of why. It's just kind of like, I mean, come on. You're trying to achieve something very difficult, and you're going to be aligning yourself with a bunch of people and some kind of organization. I mean, the team of people has to be relevant. I mean, the idea that you could just pick any team and it wouldn't have any effect on whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, right? I'm trying to be a race car driver, whatever it is. When have we ever seen the team that you surround yourself with not be relevant to the success of someone trying to do something difficult? So, again, there would necessarily have to be a selection process, right? And that being the case, I cannot see any logical scenario where the People's Party ends up being the top choice. I mean, if you run for president, logically, you're not going to pick the worst party. You're not going to pick the medium party. You're not going to pick the party without really good reasons, strategic reasons. You're not going to pick the party that's really good. No. You would have to, logically, select the best party. Now, there could be scenarios where the one that's really good but not the best, that you go with that one because there's some kind of strategic advantage, right? That advantage would have to be pretty strong. But generally speaking, you would want to go through, I have this party, that party, that party. And then through that selection process, pick the best option overall. How, in any logical sort of scenario, does Dr. Cornell West end up picking the People's Party as the best? Now, would anyone listening, would you suggest that he actually did do the selection process and he thought for some reason this party with no ballot access is the best party with all the scandals? I mean, if he did a selection process, that would necessarily have to involve investigating the party. So that would mean you would see all the scandals and what's up with the money and this and that and then lack of ballot access. All these disqualifiers would have to have come up in an assessment process, right? And there's no logical reason why he would reject the other party. Not he reject them, but he would select this party with all that baggage and not other parties that don't have all that baggage and have more ballot access. So if one is to be logical and put their feelings aside, one has to make the assessment that Dr. Cornell West did not do the selection process. And if this is how he's starting his presidential campaign, put aside your thoughts about how realistic it is based on the Democratic Party, they're going to go and do anything they can to suppress and whatever. Put that aside. There is a chance that running in a third party, you could be president. It's not going to be easy, right? There's a lot of things that people thought couldn't happen and can happen. And I'm pretty sure that this can happen. It would be a major feat. I mean, it would require massive movement on the ground level. But it could happen. But again, winning a presidential race is difficult enough. Doing it as a third party, even more so. Doing it with a man who would just randomly select a party, one of the most critical decisions of the whole process. Just randomly select a party. And then after the fact, a lot of negative stuff, and well, I don't want the distraction and the focus. Okay, let's go to the Green Party then. Okay, everybody okay with the Green Party? Okay, we gonna go to the Green Party, and then we gonna parlay about the flippy. You remind me of Dyson, man. Dyson is such a clown. That's not a good thing when you remind me of Dyson. Whatever, I keep forgetting his name. The rhyming, and, You're not going to see a lot of left-wing media talk about this. They're all going to praise him for going to the Green Party, which, I mean, that is good, right? But they're going to ignore what got us here in the first place, right? They're not going to point out to their audience the massive issues, like what this is like major red flags. Major, major red flags in a country where it is insanity for the voters to not be extremely skeptical about anything regarding politics. We've been burned so many times, lied to so many times, manipulated so many times. What kind of person is not super, super skeptical? And therefore, right away, should be like, ooh, what is really happening here? You can go deeper than that. Look at Nick Brana. Look at the kind of people he associates himself with. Dr. Cornell West is talking to these people behind the scenes. And you mean to tell me he lacked enough sort of ability to assess the character of the people he's dealing with? This is the person who's going to be president. He's going to lead. He's going to get to the point where he's going to win. This is going to be our movement leader. A guy who could be fooled by a bozo like Nick Brana. That's the level of competence that Dr. Cornel West is bringing to the table. I mean, for all the stuff that he knows, and I've heard him make a lot of good points and truths that he brings out. But that same guy, so oblivious that he would associate himself with such a bunch of clowns. Associate himself with such a clown of a party. Pick a party without an actual selection process. No way. There's no way you're going to tell me he did a selection process and chose People's Party as the best. He must have somehow just found his way to People's Party without looking at all the options and deciding the best option. There's no way. No one is going to convince me. I mean, you got to, you're going to be really hard to convince me that he did a selection process. So he goes in without a selection process, hanging out with bozos, doesn't have awareness to pick up that he's surrounded bozos. Not doing any research on anything, the party, the people, because if he didn't pick it up, other people picked up on it, and if he was doing research, he would see it and be like, oh, wait a minute, oh, that's questionable. Just completely oblivious. An oblivious man who randomly slid into a random party trying to run for president. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. If people want to keep hope alive with this particular adventure, that's on you. But I think left-wing media needs to be honest with their audience about all these red flags. Let the people decide. If you guys want to still be behind this and make donations and take this actually seriously, that's on you guys. But the media you're consuming, their job is to inform you. So they should be telling you, hey guys, I don't know, maybe, but I see a lot of red flags here, and I think you guys should take note of these things. These things are concerning, right? What you want to do, now being aware of these things, that's on you. You vote how you feel, right, the right way to go. You choose your own path, but I want to inform you that when you're making your decisions, please consider that these things are red flags and should be concerning to you. But again, the fact that it's concerning, that's one thing. What you decide to do about it, that's another. And that's on you. But they're not going to say that. They're going to just say, oh, yes, great, he's in the Green Party, and let's see what happens. Bookmark this video. Refer back to this video after the 2024 election. And then the first 2 years of the next presidential term. When we see what becomes of this, whatever this is, Cornel West and whatever he's doing. Bookmark this video. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate Me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Cornel West is not going to save us. Biden's not going to save us. Trump ain't going to save us. Nobody's coming to save us. You have to save you. We the people have the most power in this country. We can change it all if we so choose. But as long as we continue to sit on the bench waiting for someone to come and save us, things will continue in the path that they're on now, which is not a good one. Step up, stand up, take ownership. No one's coming to save you. No one. We have to save ourselves. Unplug from partisan media. Unplug from this quest of searching for a savior. Be independent. Think for yourself. Get up, stand up, and do something. Take action. Get involved. If you want it, fight for it. Stop waiting. Start doing.